episode of Two Scrippers, One Motherfucking Pole. So for those of y'all, it's your girl Mango. If you're new here, the bro was just Goddess Princess. Anyway, for those of you who are listening, I'm doing something a little different with my hair. Y'all know that I am in the process of combing out my locks. So I have like half of my locks, the ones that obviously aren't combed out, are up on top of my head in the bun, and then the hair that is combed out is just out in like a bush. So if you follow me on Instagram, make sure you do at Two Scribbles One Pole. You will see this hair concoction, and it's like odd, but honestly I told y'all I'm having fun with this. I haven't gone outside in public like this yet, because I definitely do need to, my hair a little dry, so I need to take my hands out of it. I need to moisturize this, but yeah, I'm almost halfway done combing out my locks. I did record a video and I have to edit that, and I'm hoping that I won't be before y'all too long. I always say that and then it's 2 hours later. I honestly probably could go for 3 or 4 hours just talking in front of the camera, but I am recording the day of, so it's April 23rd. The past 2 weeks have been busy in all the most beautiful ways, so Exotica recap. First off, let me tell you something. Me and Bad Bitch, we love ourselves a road trip. If it's one thing we gonna do, we gonna hop in the motherfucking car and go somewhere. That is my girl. So leaving from Harrisburg to Chicago, that was like 10 hours, but it honestly didn't feel that long. It felt, and that's like the same drive from Maryland to Atlanta. And let me tell you something. When I was driving to Atlanta, when I had to drive to Atlanta 4 times last year, baby girl was fighting for her life. Okay. I was fighting for my life. And it really is like, once you get through, Virginia is such a hard state to drive through. And the Carolinas are sometimes difficult because usually when I'm going down south, I'm going to like the Raleigh Durham area. So that's not too bad. It's like getting through Virginia. But then once you get to Raleigh, it's like, damn, I still have like 6 more hours to go. Cause you got 2 hours just to get the motherfucking Charlotte. Like that shit is crazy. So then getting to South Carolina, because Charlotte is basically right next to South Carolina, but that shit is brutal. And I think once you're in Georgia, you still have another hour before you get to Atlanta. But this isn't a geography. Well, I'm going to talk about geography a little bit, because on this drive to Chicago, me and Bad Bitch actually had, like, thank God that GPS was invented. And actually, shout out to GPS, because I believe it was a black woman, black women carrying the world yet again, who invented the GPS. It was a Gladys West. Yes, Gladys West. So it says it was multiple people, but Gladys West, Miss Gladys West, a black woman. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So thank her and the people that helped her. But thank her, okay? Because it was like, Pennsylvania is also a really large state. So from Pennsylvania, I think we went into Ohio, and then we were like briefly in Indiana before we got to Illinois. And we actually had, like, we were talking about it, and it was like, how do we end up here? We had no idea how that happened. But then when we think about it, it's like, I don't spend my time worried about geography. I know East Coast. And honestly, my knowledge of how the states connect past Connecticut, I don't know. I know that like Vermont, Maine, Rhode Island, in like Massachusetts are up there, but in what order, I don't know. And I think New Hampshire, see, that is beyond the scope of my intelligence. And then when you get West Coast, like I know California and Texas, and like Arizona and New Mexico is somewhere in there. Washington and Oregon is somewhere over there. But again, I'm an East Coast girly. The point is, we was driving and we were like, how do we end up in Indiana? Then I was looking into Minneapolis, and it was like, okay, maybe I might pass through Wisconsin. I don't know, it was crazy. But something else that was crazy about that drive was that, like, and it's mostly flat land. So I think that's another reason why it went so quickly. But as we're driving, there's like this huge smoke cloud, like really far in the distance, right? And I'm just like, we're in the middle of Pennsylvania. Like, you got farmers, you got factories, you got all types of stuff. So I was like, maybe somebody's like burning something. And then all of a sudden, we're driving next to, or driving past a 18-wheeler on fire. I mean, that bitch was ablaze. It was, I've never seen anything like that. But what got me was that everybody was just casually driving past it as if it wasn't on fucking fire. And I don't know nothing about gasoline and diesel, but I know that shit is highly flammable, which is why the shit was on fire. But like after a certain point, that shit should explode, right? So I'm just like, there were no road closures. Like people were just driving past it, and like even though we were headed in the opposite direction, we could still feel the heat coming from the truck. So I'm just like, nobody's worried about this exploding. I'm really confused, but hopefully everything was taken care of because um as we were driving past, we saw the fire trucks coming. So yeah, I hope everybody made it out of there alive and safe and well, because that shit was just crazy. It just really baffled me. Because first of all, that was the last thing that either of us were expecting to see. Because like it was funny because I peeped it, but I didn't say nothing. So then apparently, like after we came up across it, me and Bad Bitch were talking about it, and she was like, "I just thought it was a regular like power plant or something," and I was like, "Bitch, me too." Like that was not on either of our bingo cards. Y'all got me some tea. I found this little tea shop in Pennsylvania, Mechanicsburg, and I love me some tea. And this one is like strawberries and cream. It smells so good. It tastes good too, but it smells so good. And then I got a cucumber melon one that also smells delicious. So anyway, back to Exotica. Let me tell y'all something. Chicago makes me shart. All right. It was it was so bad. It was so bad. Like, so we got there on a Wednesday, and then that same day, the hotel that we were staying at had a restaurant. It had a Uno's in the actual hotel, and so Uno's apparently is like the originator of deep dish pizza. But everybody that I talked to that was like that goes to Chicago frequently or lives there was like, no, you made a mistake eating there. And I was like, well, listen, I'm from motherfucking Maryland. All I know is crab cakes and Old Bay. Okay, that is our specialty. So if a place says that they originated the deep dish pizza and like Chicago is known for deep dish pizza, you would think as an outsider looking in that this place is like good for deep dish pizza. Absolutely not. That meal was horrendous. So first off, we had got like this shrimp and crab dip. That's where everybody was like, yeah, you fucked up right there. My hair is kind of standing up. I know these reels gonna look crazy, but you know what? That's gonna be like people going, that's clickbait right there. Like, why does girl look crazy on the internet? Anyway, so um I was talking about the food. Yeah. So everybody was like, that's where you fucked up getting shrimp and crab dip. And I was like, listen, we was just hungry. It looked good. It sounded good. The bread was hard as hell. Then the shrimp and crab dip, it didn't even have this like shrimp and crab dip consistency. Like it felt almost like a Alfredo-y sauce, which is crazy because like it was flavorful and I felt it was good, but the consistency and the hard bread was just really throwing me off. So then Bad Bitch got a deep dish pizza. And this is the thing, right? As I've talked about this, I think in episode 60 or maybe it was episode 59. I don't know. Whichever episode I came back with. So I think that was 59. But I was talking about how I'm expanding my taste buds and I'm like doing better of like actually eating like an adult. Y'all, I've been crushing some Brussels sprouts. I have been craving Brussels sprouts and I still haven't figured out how to cook them to my liking. I mean, I still be fucking them up. I still be fucking them up, but oh my God, I love Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts. But back to my point. So, I'm still working on expanding my taste buds and like trying new things or whatever. And my thing with pizza, this is why I don't like Papa John's because Papa John's uses way too much sauce. The sauce to cheese to bread ratio is just ridiculous. There's no reason why I'm biting into my pizza and then the sauce is just coming out. Like that's disgusting to me. So the thing about deep dish pizza is that like everything is under the sauce, which throws me off. Like I don't want to eat the sauce. But everybody's like, oh, you gotta try it. And my brother, who's never been to Chicago, but for whatever reason loves deep dish pizza and like cooks it himself and like made this huge deal, like, you gotta try it, you gotta try it. I'm like, all right, whatever. So bad bitch gets the deep dish pizza. That shit ain't have not no it had no flavor. Then it was like a sausage. It was a sausage one. I've never seen a like sausage disc. It was just like a disc of sausage, not a sausage patty, because those are reasonably sized. Like, no, it was a huge disc of sausage in her pizza. So that was crazy. And then I had got chicken parmesan, but this is the thing. So I'm not a huge marinara fan either. I think I might have told you I just started eating spaghetti like a little bit over a year ago. Yes, I know I'm almost 30, but I just didn't fuck with spaghetti. But now I love spaghetti. So anyway, marinara is not my thing. So let me make sure this mic is on. Okay. Um, so Bad bitch put me onto this where she replaces the marinara sauce with Alfredo sauce, and it's actually delicious. So I asked, could I do that? And they were like, oh, well, we don't really have Alfredo sauce, but we do have a white sauce and all. And I'm like, all right, whatever, cool. This is for all the food. The other food came out, so I didn't know they just don't have good food there. So they bring me this shit, and it was like some kind of queso. It was so disgusting. So that was our first night in Chicago. And honestly, that's probably what set my stomach up for failure for the rest of the time there. Because at that point, so that was fine. So then the next morning, we get up, we get breakfast, and then we meet up with Madame Delphinium to like explore downtown. Because my girl Madame Delphinium is a Chicagoan. I just made that up. I don't know what y'all call yourselves out there. Because like I think we're called Marylanders. I don't know. I don't actually refer to myself as a Marylander. And so I don't know what Chicago might refer to themselves to. Anyway, so we're like headed to meet her, and we stop at this like witchy shop. But on the way there, me and Babish in the car, and I just start to feel really nauseous. And I'm like, what is happening? So I'm trying to like contain it or whatever. And then we pull up to the store. I open the door and I just like throw up. I think I'm gonna be fine. So then we go in the store. I'm walking around. I buy what I need to buy. And I tell Babish, like, take your time. I don't know what's going on with me, but I'll be outside. So I go outside and I just start all in the street. Like, I went to go find like a drain and I'm just like, so this man comes out and he's like, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And it turns out I was like holding on to his car to keep me like balanced. And then he just like kind of got in the car and skirted off. And I was like, that was awkward. So anyway, at that point, I was just like, and I was kind of throwing up my breakfast, but like not. So I really couldn't figure out what it was. And I think for that day, I had like turkey sausage and egg. And then I think I might have had like I don't know if I had a bagel. I had yogurt. So I was just like, I don't really know. So after that, because all I saw was my breakfast, I was just like, I was really scared eating breakfast. I was scared eating really anything the rest of the trip. So from there, we head downtown because once Delphine actually meets us, we head downtown. And y'all, I didn't know, back to geography, I didn't know that Chicago had beaches. Like, it just never, we're driving and I look over and I'm like, why do I see so much water? And Daphne was like, oh yeah, that's the beach. And I was like, beach? And I guess I assumed they didn't have beaches because like it's supposed to be so cold up there, which actually it was really nice. The weather was really, really nice out there. It was barely cold. But everybody's always like, they don't really get their summer until like mid-May. And I'm like, wow, like that's crazy. And I was pretty toasty. She was like, this is cold. And I was like, all right, so clearly we have different temperature gauges because this is not cold at all. So, but yeah, back to the beach. I was just really flabbergasted that Chicago had beaches, but then she was like, they're man-made because they're from the Great Lakes. And I was like, oh, that makes more sense. But still, never, and especially like how much ground it covered. I was shook. I was shook. I just never would have assumed. And I know a few people from Chicago, and I've never heard anybody talk about Chicago beaches. So I was just really flabbergasted. So anyway, once we get downtown, we go to the official name is the Cloud Gate, but everybody calls it the Bean. My hair is kind of like it's lopsided, yeah. I should spray it with some water, but we're in our element, right? I can't wait. I cannot wait till all my locks are out, y'all. So I'm keeping this one, and then I can use this to tie it up. Okay. Anyway, I was lost in my hair. So yeah, we get down to the Bean, and it actually was really fucking cool. Like it was one of those things of like, oh, I really want to go to this, and then after a while it's like, all right, like it's just people taking pictures, everybody's in the way, everybody's just like in awe, but it was really fucking cool. So then from there we went to this restaurant called Cantina, which was a Mexican restaurant, and I was already kind of like, I don't know, because I'm not trying to be throwing up and shitting all fucking weekend. Bless me. Um, but the shitting hadn't started, or the sharting hadn't started yet. I was just nervous about throwing up everywhere. So then we like walked around and we sat next to the beach and just like chit chatted before we decided to like go back home. So we get back to the hotel, and then me and Bad Bitch go back to the restaurant. But this time, I think we got like garlic bread, which their garlic bread wasn't even that good either. And we got drinks, and that was it. So then the next day, this is Friday. This is the official start of Exotica. So it was awesome because first of all, that was my first session, y'all. Not only so last episode I was talking about how I was popping my first session cherry. I had not one session, but two sessions in Chicago. So I'll talk about that. But let me just kind of go over Exotica. So yeah, it was just awesome. What I love about conventions is seeing my friends because like especially now, shout out to Goldie because when I did the episode with Goldie, she was talking about how she needed to get me outside. And ever since I went outside that first time, I have been outside more and I'm just so grateful. And so I know so many more people because of that. So it's like I see my friends who are from Atlanta, I see my friends who are just from different places, and you know, or I've met them at different events and I get to see them at these conventions. So it's just always awesome to be like, hey, how are you, and all that stuff. Or like, and it was funny because y'all, like, Chicago had me sharting so bad. It was so bad. All my tweets was just talking shit about Chicago, and everybody was like, "No, you got to go to this place to try this food. No, you got to do this." Da, 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 da. Like, it was crazy. So one of my friends came up to me, and he was "I'm surprised to see you off the toilet." But that's a beautiful thing too, because then all my friends, like I have so much joy in this work. I promise you I do. Like, because that's just a normal conversation. As like I shout out my sorbet cherry. I called her and I was telling her about how I was sharp, and she was like, okay, but did you get content? So it's like it normalizes so many conversations with everybody. So I know now, like, if I need to look for the toilet boys in Chicago, I need to look for the fart boys in Chicago. Like that is what I need to look for because Chicago makes me sharp. So anyway, that's definitely going to be the episode title. But yeah, so it was just really nice to catch up with so many people. Bad Bitch had a booth, so we were like at that hub the whole weekend, and then I taught two classes. So Madame Delphinium was there, Goddess Megami Unicorn, Mistress Satori, and Madam Ivy Potent. Like she was there the first day, and then she came the second day a little bit before my presentation so that she could be there support. But she didn't come the third day because she had something to do. But it was just a great time. We were at that booth having it up. So where can I start? So okay. No, I'll wait before I get to that part. So yeah, like the first day wasn't really that eventful. I did make the mistake of wearing a loyal fan shirt, and I say mistake because it didn't say like Temptress Mango on it or nothing. It just said like loyal fans. So with loyal fans having like a huge booth, and I think they're like partially a sponsor as well, it was like everybody kept thinking I worked for loyal fans, like in support or something. And they just kept coming up to me asking questions. And I was like, that's not my job. Like, do I work on loyal fans? Absolutely. But like, I'm not the person you need to be asking questions to, because I probably have the same questions as you. But yeah, it was pretty chill. We were just at the booth all day, and like doing demos and just kind of goofing around. So then Saturday, I think we got Delphinia met up with us before we headed to the convention center, and we all grabbed something to eat. And then we went there, and again, it was just like kind of goofing around all day. And then shortly before my presentation, um, I had to run out to go get the food. Like that's the one thing I was like, damn, like when I did Exotica DC, they had me as like the very first presentation. So I was able to like go to the store, get what I needed to go do and come back. Cause I do like to incorporate temperature play. So I need like ice cream and shit. So like ice cream has a melting point and it can only sit for so long. So I had to run out before my presentation to go get the ice cream, and then came back and just had to like hold on for dear life. So my presentation went really well. It was very well attended. It was very well received. But there was a point, y'all, where I don't know what came over me, but I just got like really nervous and I just kind of awkwardly paused, and I was just like, and then I was like, excuse me, I need some water. And then I like drank water, and then I was able to bring myself back. But like, I don't know what that moment was. And I could tell like bad bitch was, and like all my friends, and they was like, just like, breathe, just breathe. And I was like, oh my God, like I really don't know what that was. But once I got back into it, I got into it. But there was this one guy in the audience who I kept making eye contact with him. And when I say he looked so disturbed, he looked like he was really upset listening to me. I thought he was going to walk out at any moment. It was just like, it looked like he was waiting for the opportunity to just debunk everything that I was saying. And it was crazy because at the end, he was the one asking the most questions. He was so engaged and he was really like, he loved it. And I was just like, I was shocked. And Bad Bitch was like, yeah, he was so engaged. Why would you think that? And I was like, girl, I thought he wanted to like cut my head off. He looked so disinterested. And so I just think about like resting bitch face. And also just that idea of projecting, especially since I had kind of started a little like nervous on my end. And then I was just kind of projecting that on to him of like he was dissatisfied because I felt like I just wasn't as in my element as I could have been. But anyway, yeah, the presentation went really well. And my sub, it was funny because so when I teach this class, exploring food play and pleasure and kink, a good majority of it is, and I'm working on packaging it together. It'll be here soon, y'all. I got a whole thing. But anyway, a big portion of how I teach the class is consent and trauma, because that is something that is often overlooked within this. And I think that like we have so much hangups about food. Like food is something that for the most part, if you are resourced enough, that food is something that you get every day. But then you also have people who have trauma with food because of food insecurity. And this is something that we often overlook, or like, people think about when you're a kid, stop playing with your food, or you're not getting up from this table until you eat everything off your plate, or eating disorders. Like there's so many other psychological things that go into food, right? So I really want to spend a good, like the first half of my presentation before I actually get into demonstrations and how you can use it in kink, is considering consent, because the consent is the basis of all BDSM play, and kink play. And I've talked about this before. Consent is, we need to teach consent even outside of sexual education, but especially in sexual education. But consent is key. So I spent a good majority talking about that, and the food, the trauma associated with food. So then once I get into my live demo, so the sub that I used for this one, I told her beforehand that like you it's going to be messy. I want to do temperature play. I want to do this, like, how are you with mess, and make sure that you don't wear anything that you really care about, that it's easy to wash, blah blah blah. So she's like, okay. So as we're doing the demo, child, I start pouring ice cream on her. Then she goes, is it too late to say I don't like being messy? I was like, actually, I mean, technically, yes. However, common, she's like, oh no, it's okay. Like, I want to push my limits. And I said, no, 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 no. This is like, and she felt really bad about it. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'll be more prepared next time and blah, blah. And I was like, no, like, I think I'm appreciative that you spoke up and that you felt like you didn't feel pressured to like sit through that for the sake of the demonstration. I'm glad that you spoke up because, one, like, consent is freely given and it's reversible. So just because you said yes, we could do this, and once you get into it and you realize like, okay, this is like, this is too much for me, we can scale it back and still engage. So I cleaned her up, I cleaned her back up, and then I poured ice cream on my boot and had her lick my boot clean. So that was a way that we could still engage in this in a safe way for you to explore. And then you could use that as a stepping stone to get messier. So maybe as you're licking my boots, maybe you're getting messy on your face and things and kind of like safely exploring that. So she felt really bad about that, but I was just like, no. And it's like, this was perfect. Like, I'm glad that you spoke up. This was the perfect example for people to see of like, okay, we thought we was about to get real messy and crazy, and we realized this is a bit too much for me. Let's scale it back. So I was just really grateful for that. And just even, and I'll kind of talk about it in a little bit later in regards to the sessions I had, but I just think it's so interesting that like the subs be so ready to just like sacrifice themselves. I be like, hold on, like I ain't trying to make nobody uncomfortable or traumatize nobody. Like, you can speak up. You don't have to. And it's like, oh, I didn't want to disappoint you. And it's like, you're gonna disappoint me if you fall out right now. Like, all for the sake of you was trying to keep the show running. Like, absolutely not. So anyway, then I was mad as shit, y'all, because I I like recorded me teaching, but I got this new app. It's called like a dual recorder so that it records vertical and horizontal. And I had downloaded it shortly before. I didn't test run it. That was my fault. But I think that it doesn't work when you're connected to a hotspot, which my phone was a hotspot and I was recording from my phone because so afterwards I like look, and why out of a 45-minute presentation, it caught like 30 seconds of it. I was like, what the fuck? But it said it was recording the whole time. Then the next day when I realized that I had like tested it out and it was a full 27 minutes that I recorded, but then when I tried it for my second presentation and it was connected to the hotspot, it didn't record anything. So I was just pissed off because I paid $10 for that motherfucking app. I was pissed. But anyway, so yeah, that was the first day, went really well. So then, or I guess the second day. So then the third day, it's a B. The third day, the third day, I'm just really distracted by this B. It was my exploring food play and content creation. So I was already expecting it like to not be that many people, but I think it was still a pretty good turnout considering that it was a Sunday. And outside of my friends, I had like 7 people who were not content creators. And they stayed the whole time and they were engaged. So that was just really awesome. I was like, oh my God. Because like when I first taught at EXXXOTICA, it was like, because EXXXOTICA, the audience is a lot more kinky curious people, as opposed to the content creators, because the content creators are either like, you know, they'll come for certain seminars that they want to go to, or they probably have a booth, or they're just in the area because they know other people are in the area, and that's like where they could collab and stuff. I'll probably do a whole separate thing on like conventions and stuff, but I've only been to 2, which I'll kind of talk about in here once I move on. But anyway, so yeah, it was just like, it was just really cool. Well, the point that I was making, one thing at a time. So yeah, the audience at Exotica is mostly kinky curious. So when I first taught my class, because again, when I first came up with the food play course, it was like from a dominance perspective, but it was like in kink and then in content and then in like ritual if you are a spiritual person. So then I had to break it down for Exotica, and I did 90 minutes because I taught that at like a 2 hours. And then I broke it down to 90 minutes and took out the ritual aspect. But my audience was mostly kinky curious. So once I got to the content part, it was like almost irrelevant. So then this time I split it up into two classes. So yeah, I was expecting like a little bit more content creators, but the fact that my entire audience, besides my friends, were just regular people and they were genuinely interested in like asking questions and stuff. Like, and I don't think any of them actually made any plans to like get into content creation, but we all had a good time. They were laughing at my jokes, they were engaged. So, yeah. So this is the thing though. So for my first presentation, I just spilled tea on my shirt. Oh my God. They need to dry. Um, I did ice cream. I think that was the only thing I used. I think I did ice cream and Skittles because my demo sub, she was like she likes Skittles. It's like an aftercare thing. So then for the content creation, my plan was not to be as messy. So I went to go get carrots because I was going to do like a small penis humiliation bit. Um, and then I also, for whatever reason, grabbed cupcakes, not really thinking of what I was going to do with them. But I didn't bring my floor cover, and I only ended up bringing one washcloth with me. And for whatever reason, I still went through with it, right? But things. Oh, I also learned from why am I blanking on his name? Dur, mm, Durant. Oh my God. But the clock it thing, he was on I think Poor Minds, Poor Minds, and he was saying that it's the middle finger and the thing, and it's like it's applause. It's sign language for I think he said is it sign language for the number 8, like you ate that? Um but people there's like no hand signal for clock it, and clock it was more so of like being exposed. Um Yeah, I caught myself doing that and I was like, wait, I literally just watched that video, so let me give credit where it's due. But anyway, shit. See, I get so distracted so easily. What was I talking about? I was talking, oh, so, I told myself that I wasn't going to get messy. But then once I got into the flow of things, the next thing I know, I'm demoing stepping on a cupcake. But again, I didn't have a surface to do it. So at that point, when I realized I didn't have a surface to do it, I should have just stopped. But no, I kept going. So I took the one washcloth that I had and used that as a surface to step on. So then once I do that, I realize how am I going to clean this off my foot? Because now I don't have anything. So at that point, my presentation was over and I'm just kind of sitting there trying to figure out. So like me and my friends are chit chatting and there was this one guy in the crowd who it was funny because he was like really into the presentation. He's like taking pictures of my presentation and everything. And he's still just sitting there, but I'm not like paying him really any mind. So eventually he like creeps his way up to the front and he's like, excuse me, temptress, would it be inappropriate for me to offer to clean your foot off? Why ain't you been cleaning off my foot, nigga? The fuck? Yes, go clean my foot off. What are we talking about? Like, is that a real question? Yes, clean off my foot. So he's like, and so everybody at this point, all my friends are like hyping it up, like, ooh. And so I'm talking to him and I'm like, oh, are you like a foot fetishist or whatever? And he's like, no, wouldn't really say that, which is crazy, where I'm gonna expand. He's like, I was kind of into cakes for a while or something. I was like, okay. And I'll say this man, attention to detail, he was getting the icing from up under my toenails. He was really in there. Like he was taking care of my foot. And I said, I know that's right. So then afterwards, like we're all just like chit-chatting, right? And I forget how it came up. He was like he was getting flamed on the internet. Oh my God. I love Unicorn. I love her so fucking much. I really can't wait. My friends are real, first of all, because I keep talking about them and I had the opportunity. I did some stuff with Bad Bitch, and we were talking about doing like our own little sub podcast because this is a thing, sidebar, is like I be having such good moments with my friends. And I think I've talked about this in past episodes of like everything is content, but not treating my entire life like content. So I'll be in conversations. I'm like, oh my God, this would be such a good podcast. This is so great. And da 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 da. But like, I don't want to whip my phone out every fucking moment to capture a good conversation. But we were talking about like, oh, we should start like since we be going on road trips and stuff, we should start like a podcast of us in the car. So maybe stay tuned for that. But anyway, um why did I bring that up? Why did I bring that up? Oh, because I was talking about Unicorn. So Unicorn, she is whimsical. She is so hilarious. I love that's my girl. That's my girl. I love her. So she like hyped it up. She was like, not your boy getting flamed. So he's like, no, I'm getting flamed. So he goes to grab his phone and he pulls up the video that was going viral on the internet. I'm not gonna expose him, but he puts it like, and so I'm like, as I'm walking past, because I'm trying to gather all this stuff. At this point, I was like the last presentation of the day. And so, oh, well, one thing at a time. So I like get a glimpse of the video, and I was like, oh yeah, I saw that on Twitter. This man looked like he done saw death itself. He was like, it's on Twitter. I'm like, baby boy, you said you're viral. He's like, I saw it on Instagram and Facebook, but I didn't know it was on Twitter either. Viral is viral, baby. You're on the internet. Like, so yeah, so we were talking about that. He was like, the crazy part is now he was telling us what they were calling him, and I was like, yo, that shit was bad. It was bad. He was getting flamed. But he had mentioned like he didn't even know that the person he was interacting with was recording. And that's when I was like, oh my God. So this is the one gripe that I do have with EXXXOTICA. And it's like in spaces like that. So the two conferences I've been to are EXXXOTICA and Sex Down South, but Sex Down South is no more. But the thing that was very beautiful about Sex Down South is consent and how consent is like really emphasized. So it was like, you could have your phones and your cameras and stuff, but they made it a point of like if they person, because there was like one day we were doing like lube wrestling. It was crazy. So they had like this big kiddie pool that was filled with lubricant and people were like wrestling in it. But the people who were wrestling, they made it a point like before we start, are you okay with being recorded? And some people were like, yeah, that's fine. Make sure you tag me. Other people were like, no, I don't want people to record. So once they say that, it's on the audience now to reinforce that and protect that boundary. And so like if we're here and then somebody walks in and you see somebody pull their camera out, hey, they said they don't want to be recorded, okay, cool, and it's no problem, they put their phone away and they're engaged in the moment, right? It's like, so consent was very much like a rule, and if you're not following consent, then like you got to get out of here. Whereas like when you go to these spaces that are, more just common folk, I'm putting common folk in quotation marks, it's like you don't have those conversations around consent. Like you might have it somewhere in a policy, but no, don't nobody read the terms and conditions of anything. And again, consent is not a normalized everyday conversation. So the thing that I really don't like about EXXXOTICA, and I have all my different theories of why this is the way it is, but it is very much a male gaze centered this showroom. So when I first went to EXXXOTICA, I didn't realize they had seminars. And now how I interact with EXXXOTICA is like the first time I went, I just went because like I had a friend who said you would love this place. It's definitely your element. I went for ladies free night. I didn't know what the fuck to expect. I just so happened as I was walking around, because I didn't know they had seminars. I just walked in and it was like a showroom, with a bunch of vendors, and then they had a stage. So it just so happened is once I made my way to the front stage, Naked Trumpeter was performing, and then I had like Goldie and some of my other friends. So I was like, oh my god, my people are here, and they're like, yeah, we have a booth. You can sit with us. So I went over there and I sat, and then I started running into like a whole bunch of people that I knew in the different communities. Like I ran into some of my pole instructors. I ran into just like everyday people that I know. I ran into like photographers, videographers, like other creators that I knew. It was great. So that's what I love about the connecting piece. And I had a run-in where we were doing a demo and this guy was like asking questions, but he was very disengaged. Like he's asking questions, but he's like looking around and he's looking kind of nervous. And then he just walks away in the middle of us like demonstrating how to use a flogger. And I'm just like, that was weird. And it was brought to my attention that he likely probably had a hidden camera on him. And I'm like, what the fuck? So then the next Exotica that I went to, I went with Bad Bitch and Hood Bitch, and or also known as Hoodman, but Hood Bitch, Hood they them. Shout out to them. And so we were doing mostly seminars, but what was it? Yeah, I had this running with this guy where he like took a picture of me and kept walking. And in this point, like I was approaching Exotica, like, okay, I have my business cards. Let me like reach out and, make connections and stuff and network. So I ended up like going back to him and giving him my business card. Like, if you use this picture, tag me. Cool. So then something didn't sit right with me. And I ran into him again and I was like, can I get your information? And he was like, oh, so I can see where you're going to use the photos and stuff. He was like, oh, it's really for my personal collection. I'm not really whatever. So I'm just like, okay, well, to delete the picture of me. And he's like, what? I've been taking so many pictures. I don't know where your picture is. I said, well, I got time. Like, delete the picture. You didn't ask for my consent to take that picture and I don't want you to have it. So he's like, trying to hide his camera from me, and he's like trying to insult me, thinking that's gonna make me back down. He's like, oh, you're really being a bitch, you're really being annoying about this, like you're really doing a lot. And I'm just like, I don't care, delete the picture. You didn't ask for my permission. Like, I don't know what you're gonna do with that picture. So he claims to have deleted the picture. But so especially since those are like two experiences I had, and then like at another Exotica I was like kind of twerking and then somebody else like took a picture. So my thing with Exotica is I've learned it's a great space for networking and connecting and getting my brand out there, but it has been a situation where I've had to learn how to reserve myself. Um and like, so what I mean by that, for like the day that I did my presentation on the showroom floor, like I had on jeans and a red PVC top and like my red boots. But then for the actual presentation, I took the jeans off and I had like a short skirt. But then the next day I wore the same short skirt, but I spent most of the day sitting down because it's like the way people, and it's so weird about it, right? And I'm sure that like it can be a little bit difficult on that scale to manage who has like phone usage and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, if people want to take pictures and record, that's what they're going to do. And I'm sure there's like some private or public space policy or whatever. But anyway, it's like your average Joe should be able to walk in there with like a whole DSLR setup and whatever else. But, and I don't really know what goes into media passes, but what I was getting at is like the people are weird about it. Like they'll have their phone, but they'll be like walking and looking forward, but they'll have their phone on the side of them. And it's like, bro, it's obvious you're recording. Or they'll like have it lower. And it's very weird and uncomfortable, and it's unfortunate. And so I have made, like I said, I have learned to navigate that space of like, I'm just not even going to be on the floor doing stuff. Because even like, it was like one of the people, the booth that we were next to, they were doing some crazy shit, and that video went viral, and you could see us in the background of their video. So it's just so much going on, right? So I've just learned to reserve myself, because it's so many people with cameras out and so many people with different narratives that I just don't even want to be bothered with that. But I bring that up because the dude was like, he didn't even know that the people were recording. So that's when I went on my whole consent spiel, and I was like, that's the one gripe that I have with this setting, is that, like, you know, and it's unfortunate that I have to police myself because of other people not understanding consent, but that's just how it is. Like, I've seen the benefits of being in this space for my brand and my growth, but knowing how to, like, there's a time and place for everything, and really knowing how to carry myself, right? So we were talking about that, and then we start like cleaning up and we're headed out. And I don't remember like what we were talking about, but we were just chit chatting. And he's like, "Oh, you know, it was lovely to meet you. Thank you for letting me clean your feet." And I was like, "No, thank you," because I didn't know what the hell I was gonna do. Like, follow me on Instagram. He's like, "I did." Oh, excuse me. So then, and also, so I follow him back. We went about our day. I also want to shout out the erotic fairy, my girl, because her presentation was after mine on Saturday. So her and her husband, I met them at Sex Down South. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And they just so happened to come to my presentation. So since theirs was right after mine, I stayed after to watch, and I absolutely loved her. So her presentation was on the art of oral. And I love the way she broke it down. Like, she really went into just like the historical context of, like, back in, I think it was the Roman days, of how giving oral was seen as a submissive act. So like it was placed on the women, or like the weaker men, to suck dick, versus, like, you know, the higher ups and stuff weren't going to eat pussy, because it's like you don't want to be seen as weak or submissive. So you had that inherent like cultural context of why, you know, a lot of people even till today are like, there's grown men talking some, oh, I'm not going to eat pussy because that's what weak men do, and da da da. Boy, if you don't get on these motherfucking knees and slurp this clit up, boy, stop playing with it. But yeah, then she went on to the music, and how it influenced that, and like especially with blues, and how we had to be more creative in how we talked about sex and things, because you can't, especially like, you can't just have black people talking about sex all willy-nilly. Like, that was crazy. So they had to be very creative, and it wasn't until you know, my neck, my back, lick my pussy and my crack came out, that it was like, whoa, like that's when people started getting more overt about sexual acts. And then even with the whole scandal with Bill Clinton, and when he got caught and he's like, well, I wasn't having sex, we didn't have sex. And so then you have some people who genuinely, one, because the sexual education in America is shitty, and I can go on a whole rant on why that is. But then you have like this person who is like the supposed ruler of the free world saying, I didn't have sex. So it's like, okay, so maybe oral isn't sex. So then you have people who genuinely don't consider that part of sex. So it was really cool to see the historical breakdown of it. But then she did like demos of like how to actually suck dick and how to eat poom poom. So she had somebody volunteer to be like, to hold the dildo, and then I volunteered to hold her like little pussy pocket thing. And but it was a little bit bigger than a pussy pocket. But then she like, I sat down and then she like did it, and it was just like, it was really cool. So that was a really fun presentation, and I wanted to shout her out because I love, 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 love her. So anyway, so where was I? Yes. So back to the end of Exotica. I was the last presentation on that Sunday. So after that, I like said goodbye to the guy, and then went back to the table to start cleaning up, packing up the booth so we could go. So then I don't remember exactly what we did after that, because we went somewhere, because we were not too far from the convention center, but I know we were driving around, and I cannot remember for the life of me where it was we went to. But it was, you know what, I think we went to Superdog. That's what it was. We went to Superdog. And I didn't get a hot dog. I got chicken tenders, because again, I was just, y'all, the sharding. So it was like, at one point I was laying in the bed early in the morning, and I was working on the finishing touches of my presentation. And it's like, you know, when you have to fart, but you know that it's a risk that it might be a little bit more of a shart. I like just a little poop, and it felt wet. I said, oh my God. And I had on a dress. I looked in the dress, and it was a little trail. I said, ah! So the way I had to like fold up my dress and run to the bathroom was crazy. But that was basically like, that was when it first started. And I don't remember what day that was. I guess that had to be either Friday or Saturday morning. I don't know. But I was just petrified. So I was just scared to do and eat anything. I was very nervous. So after we left the thing, we went to Superdog. So anyway, so I was scared to get a hot dog is why I brought that up. So, um, yeah, as we're like in the car, I get a message and it's from the guy that cleaned my foot. He's just like, it was a pleasure to meet you. Like, thank you for the opportunity to clean your feet. And then he sent me my tour post and was like, I would like to inquire if it's possible before you leave Chicago. And so, I was like, ooh, ooh. So, let me go to the thing. So I was just like, oh yeah, like it was lovely to meet you. Email me because what we now about to do, my Instagram not about to get got again. Okay, y'all not about to catch me because I was still hurt when they snatched my Instagram last year. So anyway, um, and it was just really interesting. So before I talk about that though, I do want to kind of recap the session that I had with BB. Because BB is infamous for like 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour long sessions. And in my head, I was just like, how, like, what do you do for 2 hours, right? Like, I just couldn't really, especially with something, because the guy that ended up reaching out to me, he wanted foot worship. I'm like, what do I do for 2 hours in a foot worship session, right? Like, I was just, you can only massage my feet for so long. But anyway, back to the first session. So it went really well. And it was at one point where I was like, so I've seen my fair share of like tiny penises, right? And so they don't just surprise me anymore. But it was so funny because like as he was like as we were preparing for the session, he's like getting undressed or whatever, and it's just like a tiny little dick. So at one point, I was like torturing his nuts, and I'm sitting here like looking for his dick. I was like, I knew it was tiny, but I didn't know it was that tiny. So I'm just looking, and then where his dick should be, it looks like there's a clit, like it looks like flower petals. So I'm just like, where did your dick go? So then that's when BB is like, oh, it's an inverted penis. And I was like, I didn't know that those existed. So I was just really shocked. And it was like, it definitely just shriveled all up in there. And I was like, wow, you've never lost a game of hide and seek in your life because I really could not find his dick, y'all. I was just like mind blown. But yeah, it was a really good session. So that happened Friday before we headed to like before Exotica opened. So that was really fun. So back to this one. So, yeah, I had like messaged him to email me. So then he emailed me. He's like, "Good afternoon, Mistress Mango. Thank you for allowing me to clean your feet after your seminar today. I hope I did a good job cleaning them. I would like to serve you if your schedule allows. Please tell me what I need to do to satisfy your dominance. Thank you." And then signed his name. So I'm like, ah. And so I think this was really interesting too, because last episode I was talking about, relationship with money and like how do you hold space for money coming in and things like that, or like what is your energetic pattern, right? And so through all of this I had mentioned how I had raised my prices and things, and so a part of me was just like, oh my god, like it was so unexpected that this was happening. And in my head I was like, I need to secure the bag, I need to secure it, I need to secure it. So I sat with thoughts that were coming up of like, okay, well, how can I make this more appealing and more, to make sure that it goes through, right? So before I get deeper into that, so I have responded and I was like, in order for you to book, you need to send me a photo of your ID and a deposit for screening. What type of session are you interested in, right? And so I was like, before I went on this whole spiral, I was like, let me be clear with that part right there, ID in deposit because we're not doing anything without that, right? And that's usually where I get the pushback. That's usually where people just are like, oh, your prices are too expensive, or they're like, oh, well, I had one guy who was like, well, when you meet me in person, you'll see that I'm clearly over 45 by my receding hairline. I'm like, I know niggas that are in their 20s with receding hairlines that don't even have hairlines. So what are we talking about? Shut the fuck up, right? So I was kind of expecting some pushback, right? So he then, after I say that, I get a notification for $100 sent to my Cash App. And then he sends me his ID and he's like, Mistress, I would like to do the Paradise Experience, please. I have sent the deposit via Cash App and attaches my government ID. And in my head, I was mind blown. Like, that was so easy. Because with the other session, BB handled everything. I literally just had to show up and then get the money. And then we went about our day. So I didn't actually handle any of that. And it was I also realized last time too, that in the last episode, I did have a situation where I had a sub that I was like interacting with, and we did go on like a dinner date, and it was like a bunch of back and forth for a couple of months. And I finally was just like, listen, bitch, you're going to do it or you're not. And then he did it. And we like, but anyway, I'll talk a little bit more about that. So yeah, he sent me this, and I was just like, wow, that was easy, right? It came so easily. There's no pushback. So then I responded to him. No, so then he messages me, and like, so on my website, I have different packages, right? Of, it's like, so I have the step-by-step of how to book me. And then I have like the Seeds of Devotion, which is like a consultation. And you could either do it where it's a call or we do in person. The Devotee's First Step, which is like, you're new to BDSM and you don't have any references. And this is like a 2-hour package. It includes the consultation and all of that. And then I have the Paradise Experience, which is like the basic one. You have to provide a reference, and that's kind of like the hourly rate. I have the Moment in Paradise, which is more so like the cash meets. I have a Date with Divinity, which is female-led relationships. Like, you actually want to go on a date and spend several hours together. Like, we're going shopping, we're going like all this other stuff. And then we have Paradise Productions, which is like, you are in a session with me, but like, basically you tell me what your heart limits are, but like, I control the show. Whatever content I need is what you're going to be. You're my free use slave, essentially. So it's like a discounted rate, but again, you don't really get to say, versus like the Paradise Experience, you're telling me what kinks you're interested in, versus this is like, no, you are just on camera. So anyway, yeah, so I have these different packages, right? So he told me he was interested in the Paradise Experience, but in my head, I meant like what kinks you were interested in, right? But then he emails me back, and so this is where the doubt creeps in. I'm like, oh my God, no. So then he's like, Mistress, I might have overstepped my bounds. So I read that. I was like, oh my God, no. So then he goes, as I am a first timer with you, the appropriate experience should be the devotee's first step. So then I was like, oh my God. So first of all, when he first mentioned the Paradise Experience, in my head, I started to like think about undercharging myself, of like, because I told y'all how I just raised my prices, right? So I'm like, it's $700 an hour, and the appropriate thing is like, this is last minute. And I only felt comfortable booking a session with him because I literally just had an interaction with him and I felt safe around him. And I was like, okay, I know you're a real person. Like, I know you're of age. Like, I know all of those parts. It's just like the additional screening. But like, there's already that kind of like dynamic set in place. So I was like, all right, like when I was talking about last time of kind of knowing when to pivot, I guess, some boundaries or things. So yeah, but anyway, I was like, in my head, I considered not charging the $700 an hour. And I'm just like, why would I do that? Like, it clearly says that, right? So then for me to like, in my head, like, oh my God, because I want to make sure this goes through. I don't want to turn them off with too high of a price. Like, bitch, what? You tripping. But then for him to then choose a package that's even higher than the price I was already trying to undercut myself. Like, girl, what? because the devotee's first step is a 2-hour session at $1,000. So I'm like, okay. So then at that point, I'm like, okay, so he's paying attention. Like he's doing what the work. And so I kind of talked about this last episode too, is like, I there has been so much kind of like doubt here and there of like, am I doing this right? Am I doing too much? But it's like, no, I took my time to build these systems, to build this funnel of like, so he took the time and respected my time enough to actually read my website and do the things that I have listed. So I was like, okay, I love a good boy that can follow directions without being told. I take it you have reviewed my website, so you are aware of pricing and procedures. What type of kink would you like to engage in? So then he messages me back. And then again, I start to go in this spiral. He's like, Mistress, I have reread your session protocols. Unfortunately, as soon as I saw unfortunately, I said, oh my God. So he said, I do not have black pants. However, I do have a black shirt which I will wear. I will also make sure my hygiene is to your standards. My tribute, when approved, will arrive to you via Cash App. I would like to do foot worship and anything you would need me to do for you under your strict rules and guidelines. So even this, I was like, this is just all the more confirmation that I'm not doing too much, that like I am on the right path, that everything is where it needs to be, right? Because again, I made my website over a year ago, and like I told y'all, like this is the first session that I have booked completely through myself, right? So honestly, because I have like the people who reach out like, oh, Mistress, I'm interested in this, and da 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 da, and we might go a little bit back and forth, and then they fall off the face of the earth. And I can tell like people don't take the time to read my website and things like this. But this just confirmed to me, like this basically created the baseline of how I'm moving forward with subs, because clearly the information is there and it's easy to read, because he was so step by step and very particular. And even it was like some parts that, because the way I built my website, it's like everything is there. I have frequently asked questions, I have like disclaimers, I have protocols, like what do you do before a session, what do you do after session, like all these different things. And I also have like I created this manual that the idea is you book the session. Once everything's confirmed, I send you this manual of like, these are some of the favorite things I like. These are some of like, this is how you would go about booking a session. This is how you would do virtual. This is like the expectations of communication and all these other things. So like once you get past that first level of screening and you are a client in my database, this is like the protocol that you would follow moving forward. So I know that in that I have like very specifics, because and it was like I didn't realize that some of those on there were on the website, because I was like, I thought that the black pants and things, I didn't realize that was listed on my website. I knew it was in my like manual, but at one point I felt like, oh, I'm asking for too much. But clearly I'm not, because that's the standard. Like as the dominant, I am setting this tone. I am setting the standard. So it's like, if I want you to come dressed in all black, then you come dressed in all black because I motherfucking said so, right? And it was just so interesting that he was just like, oh, I don't have it, but I'll make sure. And the funny part is he came dressed in all black, even though he said he didn't have black pants. I don't know where he got the black pants from, but he came in them. But yeah. So then I told him that the earliest availability I would have was 9 p.m. And he said 9 p.m. works for him. He'll be there on time. He'll start to prepare himself for my standards and await my next steps. So then I was like, good boy. So then I said, there will also be an additional $150 fee for last minute booking, as my friends have to make arrangements for the duration of our session. And I told him the total final cost. And then once I receive the 150 from him, I'll give him the location of where to meet me. And then the remaining balance will be due at the beginning of the session. Immediately, I got a notification for $150 sent to me. And I was just like, wow, this is so easy. Like the subs that want to make a good impression and know how to be a subs are going to do it. Like there's no pushback. It was just like before he would even, every time I told him to send me money, before he would respond to me, he would send the money. And I was just like, wow, this life is so easy. I love that, right? But it was just interesting to notice how the parts of me that weren't used to that being normal, that didn't experience that yet, was just trying to like so much pushback of like, it can't be this easy. It can't, like, what do you, he did that, or oh no, they're gonna say this is too much, especially because I've had so many people already tell me that like, oh no, like that's too much, it's more than I'm used to paying, or da 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 da, or can I do, like, trying to barter with me. And then the fact that like now I've raised my prices and somebody is just cooperating. So that was, it was very interesting to notice the internal dialogue as this process was happening. So yeah, he sends the money. So I gave the money to Bad Bitch and Delphinium so that they could get drinks while I was in the session. So he's like, Mistress, the additional fee has been sent via Cash App, and your remaining balance will be sent when I arrive at 9. So I send him the address. I tell him what to do. He tells me that he's like, Mistress, I'm acknowledging your email and directives. I will be catching an Uber to the location and will message you once I arrive to the hotel lobby. My goal is to be there at 8:55. So I'm like, we're in the restaurant next door to the thing as I'm like sending all these emails. And I think at this point it was like, what time was it? Can I see what time it was in this thing? I think it was like, ooh, it was like 8:30, 8:45-ish. So I'm like, all right, I gotta hurry up. Yeah, it was like still 8:30, 8:40. So I was like, okay, I gotta hurry up and like get my life together. So I like left them. I ran to the hotel to try to clean up a little bit and then like to clean myself up. Um, and so then he messages me at, why does it say that it came through at 9:48? Oh, you know what? Because the time zone difference. So when we were messaging, it really was like 8, it was like 7 something. So then at 8:48, he messaged me and was like, because I didn't want to disappoint you and be late, I scheduled an Uber. It arrived early and I'm now here at the location's lobby. I'll wait for your next directives. And so I emailed him to like what the room number was and like where to come up. And then he came upstairs. And oh my God, I had so much fun. So a little bit of me was like 2 hours of foot worship. Like, what the fuck am I gonna do? And even that. So when he came in, I have listed too that it's like one of the ways that I want my subs to approach me is like, when you give me your tribute, I want you to put the money in a humorous card. I love cards. I love cards. So I want you to like take the effort of going to the store, get a funny card, put the money in there, and then also bring flowers. And again, I forgot that this was listed. So when he gets there, he like kneels and he's like, I'm so sorry, Mistress, I didn't have time to get flowers. And in my head, because I'm still processing, mind you, I'm brushing my teeth. So I'm just like, I'm in sweats. I'm just like, what is happening? And again, it was like this consultation piece. So I was like, you don't need to be on your knees right now. It's fine. But he's stressed out because he didn't get me flowers. And I was like, it's okay. It's so fine. But sidebar, that first dinner date that I went with the other sub who was interested in being, that was a whole nother thing on its own, but he was interested in being completely black owned. I've talked about him before. If you've been here for a while, you remember him. But anyway, he had got me a card and it was funny. It was like, congratulations on your new job. And then on the inside, it was like, he had wrote a note and he was just like, you're gonna make like a wonderful mistress and da da da. It was really sweet. It was funny, but it was sweet. So yeah, anyway. But again, that was more confirmation. Like, this is a person that really wanted to impress me and be in my space to the point where he took his time to read through. And like, he felt bad for not meeting certain requirements that I had listed. So just all the more confirmation for me. So we're like chit-chatting a little bit before we get started. So again, like, what do you do for 2 hours for foot worship? So what I ended up doing, I had him wash my feet off because I had been like I still had the cupcake residue a little bit from earlier. There's a bee next to me. There was the cupcake residue from earlier. I had been walking around with my sandals, like, and I'm sure you probably want to put my feet in your mouth. So like, let's clean my feet off first. So I had him take the time to clean my feet. So then after that, I like let him like, suck, kiss, lick, whatever. And I was like kind of smacking him in the face with my feet and like smushing his face and things like that. And this was hilarious. So so I do have some videos that I recorded because we talked about it. I didn't have a mask with me. He was fine with being recorded, but obviously didn't want his face in it. So there were like some angles that I couldn't like that I captured, but his face was in, and I have to try to figure out how to edit it. But there was one video. It was so funny. So I think let me look this up. I think the official name for it is Oxadalia. Ooh. Um, is that no? Okay, it's like kink of being bitten. So I have so it's odaxilagnia. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. I was trying to be fancy, but basically I like to be bit, right? And so at one of the foot parties that I was at, somebody was doing this like really nice like bite lick suck combo on my foot, and it felt good. I was like, okay, I could get with that, right? So as he's like, I don't even remember what he was doing. I was like, you have permission to bite my foot if you would like to. So in my head, I'm thinking it's going to be sensual, it's going to be nice. When I say this nigga started chomping on my foot like it was a well done steak, I mean, he was like, his body was shaking. His body was shaking, and he's like going from foot to foot, just like, and all you saw was teeth. Like this was legit him. One day I'm gonna edit the video so that you can see it, but it was so funny because he's just like, and he's snorting, he's growling, and he's like, "Mistress, you just make me feel like such an animal." I thought it was so funny, but that is like, it's the beautiful thing of like, it's like I wasn't expecting that. I was honestly shocked, but I love being from that top perspective of just seeing how people get lost in it. It's so interesting. So anywho, so like there's some of that, and then I like tried to trample him at one point, so I'm like stepping on him, and I could tell baby boy was trying to push through, but obviously it was like it was a little bit too much for him. So I got down and or like put my hand on his chest, and I was like, breathe, just focus on breathe. He's like, I'm sorry, I didn't want to disappoint you. I said, you're gonna disappoint me if you pass out right now, so just focus on your breathe, focus on your breath, it is okay. So I'm like breathing with him. And this was kind of the point that I was making earlier with like the demo sub, is that like I've noticed that the subs be trying so hard to impress you, and they feel so disappointed in themselves for not meeting the certain expectations or whatever you agreed to. But it's like, baby, I'm going to be so much more disappointed if you get hurt because you're trying to please me. Like this is not at the certain point, like if I crush your fucking chest or whatever else, like if I hurt you, it's not fun anymore. It's not fun. So it's like I am grateful that people feel safe enough with me to speak up when they are uncomfortable or once they're getting past their limits, because that's what makes a good bottom, like to be able to advocate for themselves. Breath break, because I don't know if y'all could hear that helicopter. Okay. So yeah, so I like get down. I'm like, all right, let's change gears. So I think I did like a little bit more like face smushing and stuff. And then I was like, do you eat cupcakes? And he's like, yeah. So I'm like, all right. So I get the cupcakes. I like have him lay down the tablecloth. So I guess it worked out that I didn't bring the tablecloth to my. Everything works out divinely, okay? Because if I had brought the tablecloth to my presentation, then I wouldn't have had it for the session, right? So look at God looking out for me. So anyway, I have him set up the floor so that the thing is down. So then I have him like kneeling in front of my feet, and I start stepping on the cupcake, and I'm just like smearing it all over my toes. And I'm just like, ooh, my feet are so dirty and sticky and so like just really like just talking about the sensory aspect of it as he's watching me do this. And he's just like, he's like, oh, I need to clean your feet, mistress. Your feet don't deserve to be this gross and blah blah blah. So we're just like both into it. So I'm just smeared it all. And I'm like, you're going to get every crumb, every sprinkle, every bit of icing off my foot. I don't want to see anything. You need to clean the fuck out of my foot. Just like really getting into it. So then, you know, I told him to start. So I was like, you can take your shirt off because it was going to get messy. So he takes his shirt off and then he starts like cleaning them, right? And this is another aspect of like, especially as a top, dominant, the person who is in charge of the scene, you need to be aware. Like, you cannot get lost in the scene. And so it was like at a certain point, I could tell, and they were like the little mini cupcakes, like 2 little mini cupcakes, but I could tell that it was becoming to be too much sugar for him. Cause this nigga started like tweaking out. He's like trying to lick it. He's like, it's like the sugar's too much. He was like, yeah, it's a bit too much sugar. And I was like, then you can stop. He was like, but I need to clean the foot. And I said, no, because you're not about to go into like a fucking diabetic shock on my watch. Like, nigga, stop. You could clean my foot. So he's like, okay, mistress, I'm sorry. And I'm like, no, it's fine. He was like, but you're still gonna clean my fucking foot. So I have him like clean up the mess and then like get the bowl ready to clean up my feet. But then somehow he got the cupcake all over him. So I was like, clean your fucking self up first. So that also spent some time, you know, just kind of pacing it. And that's the other thing, pacing. And I think about like with performing pole dancing or just any performing, something that really helped me. One of my pole instructors had mentioned that, like, especially when you're doing a solo performance, nobody knows what your routine is. So don't stop dancing. Just keep moving through it, because they're going to go where you lead them. So it's like, if I'm touching, you know, if I'm extenuating my kneecap, maybe I'm slowly, and y'all can't even see this, but you know, I'm rubbing my knee and tracing my body and slowly coming up. And honestly, if I do that slow enough, that's like 30 seconds. And then I could think in my head of like, what's the next move or what's the next transition. And so how that translates in a scene, the subs are more nervous than you, and they're just happy to be in the room with you. So if you know, like, obviously, you know, if you need some time to kind of think, like, you can have the sub kneeling there and you just walk around them in circles. And that's intimidating as you're thinking about, okay, how do I want this to play out? And maybe it's like, tell me why you're so grateful for this experience. And then you continue to just walk around them, and maybe like you get down beside them and like you build that kind of tension, if that's like part of your persona, right? Because I'm essentially sadistic. So in an instance like that, you could tell me, you know, if you agree to CBT, I can just be around you real sensual and just be like real sexy and hot. And I'm like, tell me why you're grateful for this experience. And then you're, you know, saying, oh, because blah, 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 whatever. And then all of a sudden I kick you in the nuts. And then you're like, oh, thank you, mistress. And then I move on to the next thing. So it's about pacing, it's about tone, it's about building that tension, right? There's thinking of the space as part of the act too. So there was at one point he was saying something. I was like, I just want you to shut up. Just stop talking to me. And he got quiet as I'm slapping him in the face with my foot. So yeah, just kind of building that out. So 2 hours before I knew it, it was like a wrap. But anyway, so yeah, he like tries to get down and start cleaning my foot. I said, how the fuck you gonna clean my foot when you're still a mess? Get up and clean yourself. So then he got up, he cleaned himself off, and then he started cleaning my foot again, or my feet. And then he's like massaging my feet and lotioning my feet and stuff. And then as he's talking, it was so cute because every time he had a question, he's like, mistress, can I ask a question? So I'm like, yes, you may. And he was saying that, you know, he's like, do you happen to have your like paddles and floggers? Or I saw that you also do fire play. And I was like, well, fire play is a no-no because I didn't bring any of my stuff. Like, I'm not prepared for that. So maybe the next time I'm in Chicago, we could look into a fire play session. But the impact we might be able to do, because I knew, so I have 2 sets of floggers that I have a pair and then one by itself. I call her Big Bertha. That's my girl. I actually was gifted her from another dom who I don't think is in the scene anymore because I cannot find her anywhere. And then my set of 2, my pair, was gifted to me from Naked Trumpeter. So I had both of those, but I knew that they were in the car with Mistress Bad Bitch. So I was like, I had some other floggers that I don't use that I was actually trying to get rid of. So it was a beautiful thing that I didn't get rid of them. And then I knew that like some of my paddles were with Mistress Bad Bitch, but I still had them. So I had a few others. So luckily I was able to like retrieve those. So then it transitioned into an impact session. I think that was like the last 30 minutes of the session. And so I had them like tooted and booted over the couch, and I'm just like doing my thing. I need to learn how to Florentine. It's like a way to do it, but it's hand-eye coordination, and I guess I just need to practice more. But anyway, um so yeah, he's like, "Oh, I'm your good little boy," and I was like, "You're such a good little boy for temptress." Da 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 da. It was so funny. So yeah, and then as it's like we're winding down, and I'm like, "All right, like our time's coming to an end," and trying to just bring him back to reality or whatever. So then the session ends and we're just kind of talking. How are you? Coming back down. Do you need anything? And then he was like, I have a question. And I was like, what's your question? And he's like, would it be possible to buy your panties from Exotica today? And so I was like, lucky for you, I still have those bad boys on. So he's like, yes. And so this was another moment where I had like, because I know on my website I have it listed of like add-ons of different things that you could add to a session. So I know that worn items, and like I know when I first started, I had this whole thing of like how I would sell worn items, but I wanted to do it more from like an artistic point of view. So in my ideas, like in DC at least, where it's like weed is legal, but like they still technically can't sell it. So they do like, oh, you're purchasing digital art or something. It's like some loophole that they do. And so um with that, it was like that was kind of my spin of like you're actually purchasing an artwork, and like I had like these jars that I was hand painting and then like stuffing them in. And I had people who would reach out like, oh, I want to buy this and that, and I would tell them the price because it's also coming with art, and they're like, oh, that's more than what I'm used to paying, and da 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 da. But I've kind of moved away from that. But anyway, I bring that up because that was another moment where I was kind of like I had to see. So I was like, oh, well, this is my first time actually like selling a worn item. Like I know that I have it listed somewhere as a price. So I had to go open my website and like see what I had it listed there. So I told him, I was like, yeah, that's another 150. And he was like, okay, no problem. And sent it to me. And then we did the exchange or whatever. So he was like really excited about that. But that whole experience is like just to think about how I was really gonna undercut myself to like $500. And in that whole scene, he spent $1,300 and left a happy camper. And I was just like, wow, I really tried to play myself, right? Because of those like limiting beliefs and things of like, it really can't be that easy or da 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 da. But it's like, again, the people who have the money, like domination is a luxury, and they understand that. And so the people that have the money are going to do that, right? So anyway, so yeah, that was Chicago. That was fun. Those were my sessions. I think, was there any other point that I was going to make from there? I don't think so. Um, this is so much longer than I was expecting. I didn't think it was going to take up those two things. Um, so, oh, okay. So there's like four other things that I want to talk about. I'll try not to be super long-winded. So I was watching Dying for Sex on Hulu. And so that is a show where it's based on a true story. Let me see if I can get the girl's name. It's based on loosely based on the real life experiences of Molly Cocken, um, where she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And so it's a limited series. It was one season. It had like 8 episodes, but it was a really good show. So I just like put it on, not really knowing what to expect. Like I had kind of seen some things about it, but basically, so the leading actress, she is like it starts in there, she's in like a therapy session with her husband, and she gets a call from her doctor, and the doctor is saying that she had breast cancer. There was a whole thing with that. She went into remission, everything was fine, but then when she gets a call from the doctor, she finds out that the cancer has come back and it's in her hip. And I can't remember if it was already in her bones or if that was like later they found out it was now getting into her bones. But it's stage 4. So it was like she's given 5 years to live. And I think like the whole course of the show. It was actually a year before she died. But it was such a beautiful show. Like there were so many themes of like inner child work and inner child trauma and sexual trauma, and there was BDSM and kink in there, and obviously just like grieving and death, and it was really, oh, it was such a good show. Definitely trigger warning because it was a lot. You will cry. I cry over everything, but I feel like it'll make anybody cry. But yeah, essentially she's like unhappy in her marriage because like ever since the initial breast cancer diagnosis, her husband like barely wants to kind of be sexual with her and like just like very treats her very softly, doesn't want to engage, and whenever she tries to like, you know, get nasty with him, he then brings up her childhood trauma of like, do you want to do this because of what he did to you and or whatever, because then it we find out that she was assaulted by her mother's boyfriend, and there's so much trauma within that of how that happened. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but yeah, so she ends up like, she's like, I'm not going to die without having a proper orgasm. Like I want to die knowing that I came. And then she like, it also is a beautiful journey of like her best friend who is seen as like irresponsible and all this other stuff, takes who then becomes her caregiver, and like how that affects her life. And it was really interesting because I've seen some of my friends who that has happened to, of like now you have to become the caregiver of somebody else, and it's like so much like the grief in that of like, I'm trying to do this to help you and save you, but then it's like that part of like, I never asked you to do this, and so it seems like it's ungrateful. Like it was so many themes that were just like wow. So I think it all around was a beautiful show. um, but yeah, it was like eventually she was like talking to, I think it was like a social worker or something. It was somebody in there who was like helping her with that, and they were very involved in the kink scene. So they like, and I'm kind of like dual relationships. I'm pretty sure there's some things being violated here. But anyway, it's a show. So the therapist ends up taking her to like a BDSM party, and then she becomes a dom. Like she's trying to explore being a dom, and so this is a part that was very like, I she ends up having like a partner who's into pet play and likes to be a dog, and then she has like somebody else who's like into CBT and all this stuff. And it was like when she went to this party, she sees somebody who's the top, and she's like watching it, and she's like, I want to learn how to do what you do. And so the top is like, if you want to be dominant, you have to submit first. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. Da, 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 da. And so then she tries to go ahead and pretend like she knows everything and goes into this dominant role. And, you know, she's like on a date with somebody. He's like, oh, yeah, you know, I like CBT and I like this. And have you ever seen a cock cage? And she pretends like she knows what he's talking about. She's like trying to Google it and stuff. So they get to a point where she's in a scene with the guy, and she's over top of him, and I think she had him tied up in a certain way. And then as she's doing that, her trauma is triggered because when she was when she had breast cancer, they had her like tied up, and there were like all these machines, and so she's having flashbacks while looking at him of like as if it's her in that position. So then she like, you know, he's calling red, like stop, stop, stop. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. He's like, I'm fine, but I could tell that you're not okay. Like, what was that? So I think that was beautiful of that dom sub conversation and a dynamic of like, it's not only on the dominant. Like the dominant is supposed to be aware of what's going on, but the sub should also kind of, you know, be, it's so much energy exchange, and there's so much trust that needs to be built in that. Like it's not just doing kinky shit. There's so many different psychological triggers and things that are going on within that scene. And like I've talked about, I'm pretty sure I've talked about how like, you know, there have been certain points where I realized for me that like this isn't always this sexual gratification. Like there's so much healing that can be done in BDSM. as well, because again, like, this is not your everyday activity, so there has to be some level of like trust and understanding built between the top and the bottom, the dom and the sub. So anyway, so she ends up going back to the dominant and was like, okay, I'm ready to submit, like, you know. And they're asking her, like, she's like, I want to be tied up, but then she says, like, but don't put my hands above my head, like tie them somewhere else. And they're like, okay. And so she was talking about facing your shadows. And so I've talked about how I'm not going to top for something I've never bottomed for, because I want to kind of experience that. And then also knowing my own triggers, right? And so even I kind of talked about this in my food play presentation. I don't know if I ever talked about it on the podcast, but like, I like to be tied up, right? But for a very, very, very long time, and still now, I'm kind of uncomfortable with the idea of handcuffs, and I could never truly understand. But then at some point it clicked to me that like, I associate handcuffs with police brutality. So that's why I don't want handcuffs. Like, I'm fine with like regular wrist cuffs, I'm fine with rope, but like, I don't like the idea of handcuffs. And so if you're going to handcuff me, I don't want it behind my back. I'd rather have it in front of me, right? And I don't want a white person to put me in handcuffs. I would want another black person to do it. So even the kind of that nuance of like, when is it okay? When is it becoming like a boundary push, and like having that awareness. But for a long time, I didn't understand. And then it just hit me. And then I've talked about, like, you know, me, I've always been intrigued by the flogger. And it wasn't I, um, until I was like really going through it in my life. And then I was like at the bottom of a flogger, and then it just like it hit me, and then all of a sudden I pictured myself in a car wash, and I was just really calm, and it was the calmest I felt in days. So it's so much happening, and you never really know like what it might bring up for someone. um so yeah, that show, I think it was so beautiful. It was just a great show, so I definitely recommend Dying for Sex. I believe it is on Hulu. um Y'all, I know y'all seen that damn Monster House meme. For those of you who are listening, it's the older guy with the mustache. That shit has been so funny to me. Because some of them are just like really stupid, but this one was funny as hell. It was like, wait, let me see if I can find it. Yeah. So it was like, the chemistry teacher, did you know that protons have mass? The student was like, I didn't even know that they were Catholic. And then it was like, the chemistry teacher making that face. There was another one I saw. Oh my God. I've just been really enjoying those, and I just wanted to throw that in there for a laugh. Um, what was the other one I saw? Oh my God. I can't remember, and I couldn't find it on Instagram. But some of them have just been like really, really cheesy. But it was one that was like something about a mathematician, and then it said something about like, I think a friend was dying or something. Breath break. It was like the person then said -1, and then it was like the meme. If I can find it, I'll post it. But that shit was hilarious. So then, okay, I'm already at an hour and 30 minutes. Well, not low key. I had already recorded this episode, but I wasn't really feeling it, so I deleted it and restarted. And now I'm going longer than the first one. But anyway, I feel better about this one. I had a fan who, that I've talked about him before, my mouth's open boy. Cheap as fuck. So this motherfucker, he's a certified yapper. Just yap, 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 yap. And I just stopped responding to him because I was like, you talk so much and you don't want to pay me for my time. So eventually I got to a point where I called him out for that. So then he tips me like a fucking $15 or whatever, like, oh, it's not much, but blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, well, and he's like, I appreciate all that you do, da 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 da. Like, I wish I could give you more, whatever. So then eventually when I decide, because I found him or he found me on I Want Clips, but I'm not on I Want Clips anymore. So then I had like, once I decided to stop posting on I Want Clips, I had mentioned to everybody like I'm going, you know, to other platforms, da da da. So he eventually follows me to Loyal Fans, and I told him like, when I might post content on I Want Clips here and there, but like I would rather you buy it from Loyal Fans because I get a bigger payout from that. He's like, okay, cool. So he's still yapping, and it was like eventually he was saying how he wanted to send me these pictures because he had did like some AI generated image of like nuns feeding soap to somebody. And I was like, that's actually kind of funny. But I have it on Loyal Fans because what I love about Loyal Fans is that you can do price per messaging. So like you can charge people per actual text messages, for videos, for audios, for gifts, all of that. So I have it. It costs you, if you don't subscribe, it costs you $50 per picture to send me a picture. And so that's really to deter people from just sending me dick pics, right? Because everybody's like, oh, that's kind of high for a picture. I'm like, well, you can subscribe and it'll be way cheaper than that. So once you subscribe, it only costs you $10 per picture. He's like, I have 3 different pictures I want to show you, but like $50 a pop is a lot. And I said, well, you can subscribe. He was like, well, how much is it once you subscribe? And I said, you're just gonna have to bite the bullet and find out. And like your messages are cheaper too. And so to message is 10 cents per message. So he's like, oh, he subscribes or whatever, and he's like, oh, okay, I think I'll, you know, skip to messages. I'll just keep it to myself. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like I wanted to see him, but it's cool. So we're engaged in a conversation, and he yaps so much, and he's talking about how like, oh, you know, like I support sex workers. I love how creative y'all are. I know how much work it goes into what you do. Da 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 da. This, that, and the third. I used to own and run like an ebony foot fetish site. And he's a certified yapper if I've ever met one. I know I could talk a lot because I've been talking for an hour and 30 minutes, but this man just be yappity yapping. And he would talk to me the same way on I Want Clips where I can't charge per message. So yeah, bring your ass over to Loyal Fans. So anyway, so then this motherfucker thinks he's slick and he sends me Google Drive links. The Google Drive links are to the images he wanted to send me. So it would have cost you $150 to send those 3 pictures, but then it would have cost you $30 to send those 3 pictures once you subscribed. But no, you decide to do that loophole to send me 3 pictures for 30 cents, which I don't even see the full 30 cents of because they take a cut out of it. So I think out of that I only got like 24 cents or something like that from you sending those. So I was like, yeah, nah, like you think you're slick. So I raised his price to message me of like $5 per message or something. So then he stops messaging me. I was like, yeah, like because I had said something about like you think you're fucking slick, that's whatever. So he thought I was offended because the nuns were black feeding the white person and stuff, and I was like, no, I think this is funny and actually this gives me an idea for content. And that's the one thing that I really appreciate about him, and what I appreciate about my fans is like having these conversations. It boosts my creativity because I wouldn't have thought of this. So I was like, I like the idea. However, like how are you gonna say you support sex workers and then pull some cheap shit like that? So I raised his price because you're gonna give me my fucking money, bro. So all of a sudden he stops responding, right? And then I notice he cancels his subscription. So then while we're at Exotica, I'm minding my business. And then Delphinium gets a request for a custom on I Want Clips. And I didn't peep it at first. She had just kind of like sent it to me. And I didn't peep what he did at first, but she was like, I recognized the name. I was like, oh yeah, that's like my mouse open dude. Like, and then I told her like, beware, he's cheap. But then when I looked again, this man went to her and asked her to do a mouse open custom, and he used one of my videos as a sample of like, oh, can you do it? Like, this is what I'm looking for. I know you fucking lying, bro. I know you're fucking lying. So then I messaged him on Loyal Fans and I sent a picture of us with our middle fingers up. And I was like, yeah, you got me fucked up. Like, how dare you try to say that you support sex workers and then you fucking jit me? Like, that's just ridiculous. And then I had said something. I was like, I heard you ask for a custom. And I said, what you need to do, I was like, make sure you tip her properly. Cause like, I'm not fucking playing with you. So then this bitch gonna block me. And then he messaged her and it's like, oh, can you cancel the request? I'm no longer interested. You're a bitch made motherfucker. Like, that's just so crazy to me, right? And it just pisses me off that like you are sending, like you're so fucking cheap and you're sending, because even when I raised, because I think like when I first started offering customs, it was like $5 per or $10 per minute or something. So like he paid me $50 for my first custom. But how much work goes into recording stuff, especially customs, because people be so specific. I raised it. So now if you want me to make a custom video for you, it's gonna cost you $250 baseline, 250. So he even said like, oh, I thought about like requesting a custom for Christmas, but then I saw that your prices, like they went skyrocket, but it makes sense, you deserve it because you're such a good actress, you're so good what you do, and da 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 da, so maybe I'll save up one day. You're so cheap. And then you went like, so for anybody who's listening, watching, if you are a creator, raise your motherfucking prices, because again, like I was saying, if somebody wants it, they will pay for it. Like even my nose bitch, like he he's like, I'm still interested, but once I get the money to do it, that's when I'll put the request in. I'm just glad to know that you're willing to do it, right? So if he ever orders a custom, great. If he doesn't, fine. But it's like the people who want these videos who pay for it. Like Bad Bitch was telling me how like when she first started, she had a sub who invested in like the lights that he's like, he bought boots for her. He bought the lights that she wanted. He bought the lights he wanted her to use. Like he bought all of the pieces and paid for the custom. So again, it's like people are going if they want it. Y'all, why my phone say I have no space? So that's my cue to wrap it up. But basically what I was saying is if people want it, they will pay the motherfucking price. So yeah, that just really pissed me off. And I've been telling people like, yo, if this guy comes to you, like, and I'm not even saying don't work with him, just charge a motherfucking price. Like as a whole, and this is it's a discord on Twitter about this of like, you know, the cheapskates are I was like, oh well, she's doing this and that. If we as a collective raise our prices, because if you realize your worth and understand like how much work you're putting into this and raise your prices, then it raises the standard for people of like, you know, and some people it's like they don't even know what they want. It's like you actually don't want a custom, you just want like a voice note or something like this, like you want a small video or whatever. So anyway, I'm not gonna go too much on that because the last thing that I wanted to talk about, well, there was two things I wanted to talk about, but I noticed, and I made a tweet about this, so I'm gonna read the tweet. But it was like I noticed something interesting. I'll see some women who make a lot of money in this industry. It's what's gotten them out of survival and helped them build their businesses and expand and even like help other women in the industry. And then all of a sudden, they find God and it's no longer their calling. They can no longer support people in the industry. And I just think that's so interesting because I've talked about it before, how personally, for me, my relationship with spirituality and God has blossomed so much through this work. And I continue to get like, and ever since I've like, I own a Bible now, I go to church now, like I actually take the time to watch sermons and take notes and have conversations with other friends who are in the spicy world and who are not in the spicy world. Like I've had friends who are like, you know, before I really got into this, they're just like, oh, like what's your relationship with God, or like do you go to church or whatever. And I'm just like, I mean, I believe, I'm still agnostic. I believe that there's a God source universe, there's a higher power, there's something greater than me. And I have an eclectic view of spirituality because I could go in a whole rabbit hole about just that and consciousness of like conscious creation and like being a part of source intelligence, which I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. I have started doing the gateway tapes and like just really doing a lot more frequency work. But it's like for me, my relationship has blossomed through my engagement in sex work, right? And I just can't picture at any point me saying that, like, especially being such an advocate of like sex work is work, right? And there's so many different avenues that you can take within sex work, whether you are a producer and you're helping other people, or you are in front of the camera and you are participating. And then again, like some people will say people who work at Hooters are sex workers. Like it's so much nuance to it. But I can't see myself at the time saying that like, oh, I'm leaving sex work because that's what God told me to do, which is okay if that is. But particularly what I've noticed is that it's like a lot of them, and I've noticed it with OF girls, because after I posted that, somebody else, I saw a thing where somebody was like, a lot of OF girls will regret it, and it's like, you know, they've made so many millions, and then they were happy for years, and all of a sudden it'll click, and they're like the most depressed, and I can't believe I did that, and I need to scrub the internet of all this, and this is not who I am, and all of a sudden they're concerned about how it affects their family and this, that, and the third, right? And I'm just noticing that, and I think it's interesting. And it's one thing to be like, you know, this is not who I am anymore, because we have the freedom to change our views whenever you want to. Like, I could in the middle of this video decide, you know what, I don't want to be a dominatrix anymore, I don't want to be a fetish content creator. But then what I'm not going to do is negate all of the sex all of the success and opportunities it has brought me thus far. And I'm not going to talk down on other people and start telling everybody else what they need to do or not do. But it's an interesting trend that I've seen of like people who are known for, like, you know, they're making all this money on their pages, and they're teaching other people how to do it, and they've expanded their businesses in that way, and then all of a sudden I have this relationship with God, and God is telling me not to do this anymore, so I'm not going to do this anymore, and I don't think that you guys should either, and da 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 da. And I just think it's so interesting of that, also that kind of like that associated shame. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, when I go to church, I definitely think that sometimes, you know, my pastor be saying things that are a little bit out of pocket. I'd be like, I don't like the way you said that. But I have enough like awareness of self, and like enough tough skin to not take certain things personal. And even, you know, I think for me too, Christianity and Bible and stuff, I've talked about how for me it's more ancestor veneration. And my pastor actually said this in one of the most recent sermons, and he was saying that like some of y'all, like, some people go to church just to go to church and be like, yeah, like on Easter, it was packed in that bitch. It was like, it ain't never this packed. Where the hell all y'all been, right? But it's this idea of like, oh, we need to go because Jesus was resurrected and da da da, or even like Christmas, Jesus' birthday, and all this stuff, right? Of like this performative Christianity or this performative religious base, whatever. But he said something that really resonated with me about like, some of you are here because your ancestors prayed for you to be here, because your ancestors prayed for you to be at a teaching church. And that's another thing of like this relationship with God of like learning and reading the Bible for yourself. Because if you're like reading these things and you're just taking the pastor's word or whoever is giving you, wherever you're getting this information from, if you're taking it from their perspective and not applying certain things and reviewing and reflecting on your life, it's so easy to be manipulated. We see it all the time. That's why Christianity, and again, this is not like everybody need to be Christianity. It's just observations and noticings of like, if you are taking everybody else's word for what the word means, then yeah, that's why everybody hates Christianity. That's why everybody gets this bad rap, right? But I really appreciated him saying that like a lot of you are here because your ancestors prayed for you to finally find a space where you can like you can receive the word and be able to digest it for yourself. Like, you're not just going to church and hearing a pastor talk for however many hours and twist and manipulate this something. It's like, read the Bible for yourself. Read the Quran for yourself, or you read whatever religious text. And then again, like this eclectic, I've always had this eclectic view. They're all saying the same fucking thing, bro. They're all saying the same fucking thing. But yeah, that was just something I wanted to point out, because I just thought that was like really, really interesting of like, you know, it kind of borders the lines of like religious psychosis and like the shame that is associated with that, you know. Because all I can say is that ever since I started diving deeper into this, I've just been getting so much more successful in my work. I've been getting so much more confirmation, and I've experienced so much more joy through everything that I'm doing. And I'm constantly receiving, like, I genuinely don't know when this work will stop for me. Like, I know at a certain point there will be like, I won't take sessions anymore, or I won't do like online portion, like I won't be creating as much new content. Maybe I might step more so in like a producer role and help other people build their platforms and things. Like, I can definitely see me going more into like an education route, because that is what I love to do. I love to teach. That's in my bones. I've had so many family members who were teachers or who are teachers. So I can definitely see that evolving for me. But it's like I still see so much of this work. And I think too, there's so many ways to navigate it. And it's okay. Like, cause even, when I first started, I was fine with like nude content. I was fine with certain things. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. And I got rid of it. And so, yeah, there might still be a digital footprint or whatever, but that's not what I want to do anymore, and that's okay. But I'm not gonna shame. Like, I have so many friends in the porn industry, and I love it. Like, it's one. I'll be minding my business, and I'll just scroll down my timeline, and then I see them getting like back broke, making mess in cars, and all types of crazy shit. Seeing them on podcasts doing crazy shit, and I love that for them because that is them expressing themselves. They're just knowing them and who they are and how much joy and knowing their stories. It's just like I love it. And I've been grateful enough that so many people that I've met too have found so much freedom in this work. And so it's just so interesting to see, like, some women will talk about that, like, oh, that freedom, this, that, da da da. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm my relationship with God, and He's telling me not to do this anymore, and you shouldn't do it anymore. So all this content is gone, and da da da, whatever. So just something I noticed. Is that all I wanted to talk about? That's and the last thing I'll leave you with, y'all. So in undergrad, my undergrad was art education, and I had to take 2 classes on children's books, and I have fell in love with children's books ever since then. So it was like children's illustration in fiction and in nonfiction or something like that. But anyway, so I like to use the app Libby and Hoopla. Well, I use Libby. I tried to use Hoopla, but they said my library card was expired. So that's what made me go to the library to get it, which I have to return this book. But um so yeah, I had to go like renew it. And I found myself like I saw the children's section, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna do it. So I went to like the adult section, but quickly went back to the children's section. So then this book is called Someday Is Now. Clara Luper in the 1958 Oklahoma City sit-ins. This book stood out to me, and I love it so much. And so something that I thought was really cool is like one thing you can tell with children's books is like, I forget what the official name is it, but like the front cover and then the back page, you can look at those and it'll tell you, like, you can get context clues of what the story is about and how the story ends. So sometimes it'll be the same cover. And so that just kind of gives you like the idea of the themes. But like in this book, the beginning of it is like you see the storefront and then you see signs all over that say whites only. But then when you look at the end of the book, there's all of the whites only signs are gone. So that obviously tells you that this book is going to be about desegregation. Like, if you couldn't get that from the title, you could tell that that is like the course progression of the book. So I think that is something that's just it's very subtle. We don't learn about it, and I think it's so fucking cool. So yeah, this book is about how, she grew up in segregation, and everything was separate but unequal, and she's noticing this. And like in the black schools, it's like they're getting the torn textbooks and less supplies and less quality supplies, and like the teacher is also the principal and the janitor. But then the white schools have all these great supplies, and they have multiple teachers and all this stuff, and like how they couldn't go into restaurants and stores and eats. And then eventually she becomes a teacher, and her father will always tell her like, someday is coming, like we will be equal. But she just kept getting presented with like separate and unequal. Then she became a teacher, and she started teaching her students about this. And she did a play, and then she started taking them to different cities where they were starting to do desegregation. And so then they like came back to their town, and she started teaching them about this is like during the Montgomery bus boycotts and stuff. So she's telling them about the steps of nonviolent resistance, and how it's like, you're investigating, you're negotiating, you're educating, and then you're demonstrating. And so a lot of people were telling her that like she's doing the wrong thing, they shouldn't be doing this. And the students wanted to like actually do a sit-in. So she got permission from like the parents and everything. And they go in, and it's just crazy to see how the people were so upset that they're like harassing the children and like throwing stuff at them and belittling them and calling them names and all this stuff. And then she started receiving death threats about, why would you do this to the children, and da da da. But everybody still decided that they were going to keep doing it. And so then eventually what ends up happening is, after years, and like after years of the segregation and months of the student preparation, and the several days of doing this, um that it was like, was it Cat's drugstore, um in Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, and Oklahoma, they lifted their segregation, and that people like of all races could go in and eat. And I just thought, and so apparently this was the precursor to the college students in Greensboro, North Carolina, which I had kind of like, I'm familiar with a little bit, not as, admittedly, not as much as I would like to be, but that is also on me to continue that education. But I never heard of this, and I just thought that was so fucking fascinating and beautiful. One, of it being in a children's book, and I love that was one of my favorite things. I just love children's books. I get children's books to read for myself, obviously, and I used to read them to my goddaughter, but even now, like, I'm like, the people who are interested in ABDL, which is adult baby diaper lover, like, if I had a sub who was interested in that, and it's like, it's a form of age play and like the age regression, but that's something I would love to do. I would love to have a sub who is into ABDL, and I could put them in like a big crib or something, and I'll just read them bedtime stories or read them children's books. I love reading children's books. So yeah, and like maybe do like some finger painting and some food art with them or whatever. But it's so much fun. But I just wanted to share this book because I thought this book was like just really, really beautiful. And I learned so much from this. And it's just like, we can talk about the tougher, and I'll put tougher in quotation marks, the tougher topics with children. It's how you present it. And even just, I don't know, I never heard this story until I just so happened to stumble into the library. And so support your local library and find this. It was beautiful. But anyway, that's all. That's it. That's all. Mango's message: stand firm in your motherfucking prices. Don't say, the price is the price. Okay? Keep going, keep pushing. Yeah, I feel like that was like the main theme of like, first of doing stuff for yourself and standing firm in that, and recognizing the difference between like, is this like, and I guess this is just the theme of just noticing, like, is this something I actually need to change and pivot, or is this something that like I'm still working through my own limiting beliefs. But yeah, that's it. That's all. Y'all be safe, make good choices.